What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Jorge's House of Horrors, your twisted tour guide through tales of possession, poltergeist, and the power of belief. I'm your host, Jorge, and tonight we've arrived at the final episode of our Ed and Lorraine Warren deep dive. We're ending on one of their most gruesome and controversial cases, a house that was once a funeral home, a family tormented by shadow figures and necrophilic ghouls, and a haunting so disturbing it was adapted into a major horror film. But the scariest part, what may or may not have been fabricated. This is the story of the Snedeker house haunting, and I might have butchered that name, but forgive me for that, where grief, ghosts, and storytelling collide. And it all began in 1986 when Alan and Carmen Snedeker, financially struggling and desperate, moved their family into a rental home in Southington, Connecticut. They were relocating to be closer to the hospital where their eldest son, Stephen, was being treated for Hodgkin's lymphoma. Sounds like the beginning of a sad but ordinary story until the family discovered the home used to be a funeral parlor. That's right. Down in the basement were mortician's tools and a table for embalming and a lift system once used to move corpses from the basement to the viewing room upstairs. Creepy, yes, but according to the Snedekers, it got a lot worse. Not long after moving in, the family began experiencing classic haunted house symptoms. Cold spots, foul odors, apparitions of shadow figures and disfigured humans, lights flickering or turning off by themselves, doors opening and closing, whispers in the dark, and untraceable banging noises. But things escalated far beyond bumps in the night. Stephen, already weakened by cancer treatment, claimed he was being physically attacked by invisible forces. He described sexual assaults by an entity he said was a man in a suit with black eyes. He claimed the spirits tried to possess him, and eventually he began exhibiting disturbing behavior, becoming withdrawn, violent, and unstable. The family believed something in the house had targeted their sick son, and that energy of the funeral home had left a psychic strain on the property. That's when Ed and Lorraine Warren entered the picture. Surprise, surprise. The Snedekers reached out for help and the Warrens answered the call. According to Lorraine, the house was infested with demonic entities drawn by the energy of the bodies once prepared there. She claimed the morticians had performed necromantic rituals, even acts of necrophilia, opening portals to evil forces that had never left. The Warrens brought in clergy for a formal exorcism, and according to their account, it worked. The evil was banished, and the Snedekers eventually moved out. The case was disturbing, terrifying, and perfect for a book. The case was documented in A Dark Place, the story of a true haunting, written by horror author Ray Garton in 1992, with the Warrens listed as collaborators. See, this is where things get a little messy. Years later, Garton went public saying he couldn't take the Warrens seriously and that the Snedeker family gave him conflicting, often incoherent stories. When he asked Lorraine how to reconcile them, she allegedly told him, "Make it up and make it scary." Garton said he did just that. He shaped the narrative into a terrifying, coherent ghost story because, in his words, that's what the Warrens wanted. Now, in 2009, the story was adapted into The Haunting in Connecticut. It was a glossy supernatural thriller featuring exorcisms, mutilated ghosts, and unhaunted walls. But the film took serious creative liberties, downplaying the sexual assault allegations and crafting a more Hollywood-friendly version of events. The real-life Snedeker family supported the film, but not all critics did. Enter the skeptics. Multiple investigators and journalists have questioned the entire Snedeker haunting. Here's why. No physical evidence was ever produced. The house's later tenants reported no paranormal activity. The most disturbing claims, necrophilia, possession, and attacks, are unsupported by official records. Stephen Snedeker, as an adult, later struggled with drug addiction and mental illness, calling into question how much of his experience could have been psychological. Skeptics also point out that the Warrens often followed a pattern, escalate the horror, assign it a demonic cause, and then document it for books, interviews, and for future adaptations. In this case, they're accused of leaning into shock value at the expense of the truth. So what was it? What really happened in the Snedeker house? Was it a genuine haunting rooted in the trauma of death and disease? A case of mental illness and psychological breakdown fueled by fear and stress? Or a fabricated tale shaped by desperation, suggestion, and a desire for fame or a paycheck? Even among the believers of the paranormal, the Snedeker case remains highly disputed and one of the most sensational in the Warrens' archive. I mean, what is your verdict? Did the Snedekers face down the real evil, or was this one more of the elaborate ghost stories ever told and sold to a publisher? Let's talk about it in the comments. And hey, if you've seen the haunting in Connecticut, did it scare the hell out of you, or did it raise some serious red flags? Now, if you like that, go ahead and smash that like button, slam the subscribe, and ring that bell so you're first in line for our next spine-tingling story. I am Jorge from Jorge's House of Horrors. Thank you for joining me.